Welcome to Things My Mother Forgot to Mention.
The podcast where we say everything our mothers didn't.
I'm Jan, a trauma therapist and author turned rogue storyteller, here to talk openly about the body, aging, and all the, wait, what? Moments of womanhood.
And I'm Patty, an online business and tech nerd whose purpose is to elevate the voices of women in our world and who doesn't believe in taboo topics. Things My Mother Forgot to Mention is the podcast for every woman who's ever said, wait, why didn't anyone mention this to me?
Join Jan and Patty, two outspoken, curious, outrageous women, as they dive headfirst into a messy, magical, and often WTF realities of aging, health, and quite simply being a woman.
From rogue chin hairs and vaginal thinning
to mental health, perimenopause, and scalp cancer. Yes, really.
Nothing is off limits. It's funny, it's raw, it's real talk your mother definitely skipped.
Let's get into it.
Hey, Jan.
Hey there, Patty. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It finally got the sun out here and things are drying up. It's good.
Nice. That's exciting. And I'm excited we have a guest to join us today as we're talking again about sex and things our mothers forgot to tell us about sex. But today we are talking with a friend of mine named Kandy Christensen, and she's going to join us. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kandy Christensen, who is a crafter who loves textiles. Every personality test she has taken says she is a knowledge seeker. She is an empath. She sometimes can be seen carrying a vintage camera, and she lives with a free-range bunny named Sweetie. She works in a nonprofit administration by day, and by night she is a life coach. Sweetie is adorable, and I've learned through Kandy getting a bunny that bunnies eat everything and
Yes.
anything. They also throw fits and stomp their little feet, and they are very moody. But anyway, welcome, Kandy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And I often tell people that I adopted myself in bunny form. So, yeah. I
Yeah.
also can stop my feet when I get a little moody.
That's right. Now, I have to just say one thing about bunnies, Candy, is I live in the Boston area and I'm close to downtown Boston by like 15 minutes. And we have probably more bunnies running around this neighborhood, and it's eaten everything, my front bushes and everything. My husband has this garlic spray he keeps spraying around thinking it's going to help. But my favorite ones, I watch them out my window here, and it's a mother and she's got these little baby bunnies running around after her. I think they're adorable, but
They are
of course
adorable.
they're eating everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they
We have
do.
them a lot here too, everywhere here.
Really? They're
Oh yeah.
everywhere then. Okay,
They're
so this is
everywhere.
not this
Yeah,
area, New
it's
England.
not just there.
Okay.
Yeah, we have everywhere is bunnies, and they eat through like Christmas and holidays. They eat through all the light strings, and people have to replace all their, my brother, because he
Yes.
goes big for Halloween, and so they chew through some of his wires, so he has backup wires. Oh yeah.
The world is being taken over by bunnies.
Yeah, but they're cute is the
On Instagram, they call that spicy hay, the electrical cords. Yeah.
thing.
That's great.
And this morning, I'm in Chicago, and this morning I walked out into my
Chicago.
courtyard and there was a little bunny there doing his thing. So,
Where in
yes,
Chicago are you, Candy?
I'm currently in Rogers Park, which is the northern area of the city, but I've been in the city for over 20 something years now. Yeah,
Wow. Oh,
I
because
love it.
I grew up in Chicago area, in the
Oh,
western
where?
suburbs. Yeah, in LaGrange Park.
Oh, my grandparents used to live in LaGrange. I grew up in Downers Grove.
Uh-huh. Oh, in Downers Grove, right. Well, we used to play you in high school and everything in
Oh,
sports.
yep.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So nice area. I mean, that's great. I didn't know that. So
Yeah. And I grew up in the South Side, in the suburbs of Chicago.
north, south, and west. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, let's dive in, shall we? So Candy, what are some things that your mother forgot to mention about sex?
Yes. So I have been thinking about this, knowing we were talking about it this week, and there were two key things that came up for me. One was consent, and the other was safety.
Ah,
Mhm.
And I think I mean safety from mental, physical, and also biological safety.
yeah.
Um, and I was also thinking about it's hard to talk about these things because like I love my mother. My mother's amazing. Had she was dealt a rough hand of cards. And sometimes it's hard to have these conversations.
Yeah.
But I also have to think about the fact that my mother was raised by my grandmother and what knowledge she did not
Right.
impart. And also even just the time period I was raised
Yeah.
in. So a lot of this has been cycling through my head this week. But yes, honestly, I think the big thing was consent and safety.
Mm.
But she didn't talk to you or forgot to mention about how do you enter into a sexual relationship, meaning choosing to do it, meaning consent.
No conversations whatsoever about sex beyond saying, don't get pregnant. And that
Oh,
is because my mother got pregnant when she was 16, going on 17, and was unable to finish high school.
uh,
So the messaging in my household was don't,
Hmm.
like,
don't.
don't. Without the conversation around, it's going to happen.
Right.
Yep.
And I think one time I remember, so I grew up knowing how to ride a motorcycle and drive stick. And my mom made a comment one time. She was like, I always wanted you to have an ability to leave,
Mm.
even if the vehicle was not your normal vehicle. I think she'd been in situations where she'd been trapped somewhere and wasn't able to leave a situation that would have been difficult. So that honestly, that those two things, just don't get pregnant and know how to have an exit plan.
How to get out.
Wow. Yeah.
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 But nothing about here's when you're in a situation, it's okay to say no, it's important to give
No.
your consent or
Nope.
what consent looks like. So, which is I think a really important conversation that I think until really the last 10 years, 15 years, did that really start coming into mainstream conversation, right? The idea of
Yes.
consent and the conversation around, hey, just because you go on a date with somebody or they buy you dinner doesn't mean you automatically owe them something. Or if you start making out with somebody and at one point you say yes, but then you change it to a no, that no still holds, right? Like that idea of
Yes.
consent.
And also, those conversations were not happening in any realm around me. They
Right.
weren't happening in school.
Mm-hmm.
My friends' parents were also may have been having different conversations, but they also were not having this conversation. And I think those are the things that really put me in situations that were challenging. And even now dating, like you'll hear, and I've had the same experience. I don't ever want a man to pay for me because I don't want to imply then that I am available bodily.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Hmm.
And so you'll see a lot of women who will argue, no, I will pay my half because unfortunately the implication is that if a man pays for your dinner, well then
Right. You owe me something.
yeah. Um, and on the flip side, I went on a date probably like 5, 7 years ago with someone who every single step of the way, can I hold your hand? Can I kiss you? Can I kiss your neck? Like every step of the way asked, is this okay? And got a verbal yes from me, not a nod, not a verbal yes. And I was like, where did you learn? Like, what is happening here? Like, and he said, this is how we were taught in college. He learned this in his college, and he wasn't that much younger than me. Um, and honestly, it was the sexiest thing I have ever encountered in my life
Hmm.
because every step of the way, I felt
You had a choice.
empowered to say
Hmm.
yes or
Yeah.
no, exactly. And I felt like my partner was actually acknowledging and listening to what I wanted. Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Which nine
Like you
times
were
out
a
of
part
10
of
doesn't
it.
happen.
You were a
Yes.
part of the situation as
Yes.
opposed to
Yes.
because I think sometimes it can feel like I know for me when I've done like dating apps or started to talk to people or something like that. Like recently I had this experience where I was talking to somebody on a dating app and they kind of started being like, "Well, I think I'm just looking for like casual something." And I was like, maybe I could try casual something like, I'm single, I'm whatever. And so I made the what I feel now is like a mistake of being like, it is something that I'm potentially open to. And he immediately switched to everything was converse. He
Hmm.
says, well, some women find me that I flirt too much, but then everything was sex, 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 sex in the
Hmm.
conversation. I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
flirting. Like,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
like that's why people block you is because that's not flirting. And immediately for me, it felt like that's why I don't even want to talk about it with certain people in that early stages of dating because it felt like there was no consent. There was just like, oh,
Yes.
you said you might be open to. So
Yes.
here's the onslaught of
And
everything
they took
sexual
it
related.
from 0 to like 100 in 1 second and didn't even give you a
Yeah.
chance to acclimate. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, because he
Or
was
say
asking me
yes or
questions
say
about
no.
me and we were having these conversations.
Yep.
And then as soon as I said that, it was, what are you up to? If you could do anything right now, what would it be?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing exactly what I want, which is snuggling with my cat and watching a movie. And he's like, well, you could be doing. And I was
Yeah.
like, great, that's where we're at. Like, you've stopped asking me questions and now you just want to talk about sex. And so,
I'm no longer a human being. I'm just a toy for you to use.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really
Yeah.
interesting. That's an interesting perspective to take on this whole topic, which was
Well,
something I was thinking that we,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
I
yeah.
was thinking.
And there have been a lot of like, and I'm on Instagram a lot. It's a problem. But anyways, there have been a lot of commentaries from men saying it interrupts the moment, it kills the mood. And it's like, no, no, it doesn't. You ask
What
any
kills the
woman,
mood?
the fact that I would ask consent.
Oh God, you're
Communication.
kidding.
Communication kills the mood for a woman. Are you kidding me?
Hmm.
To me, it's all about respect, Candy.
Yeah. Right.
Yes,
And
yes.
actually, I'm thinking of raising. I had two sons, and raising two sons, teaching them respect about asking. Is this
Hmm.
okay with you? And if it's a no,
Yes,
then they stop there. And that
yes,
whole thing is about respect. And that's probably why it was such a turn on, because all of a
yes,
sudden, you're empowered and you feel like you have a voice. And
yes,
I was thinking back to the days, which I'm probably the oldest one here. But back in the days where my mom expected that you don't have sex until you're married,
Right.
and then they're hoping that that's what happens. But so there's no idea they're teaching you about consent or about safety.
Right.
yeah,
And now kids find out, like you said, where did you learn about sex? Then
yeah.
just experimenting? Is that what happened?
So I'd say from a formal education, I had the typical, this is the presentation of this is a condom, this is an IUD. Like it was a big wooden box with plexiglass over it with all the things. And I think it was taught by the gym teacher. So that was my sex ed in high school. And the rest was just learning through doing. And I have to say, like, I remember, I think when I was like 14 or 15, somebody tried to French kiss me and I panicked because
Yikes.
and I think when I was 16, I was dating somebody who was 17, so they're a year older than me, and they started to really kind of pressure me. Um, and I did say like, no, I'm not ready. I don't want to do this, and they broke up with me.
Yeah.
So the lesson there was if you don't put out,
Yep.
Mm,
you don't.
That's
right.
right.
Um, and
Now,
then I,
did
sorry, go
you
ahead.
have did you have in your high school, since we went to high school and you were in Downers Grove and I was in LaGrange Park, did you have it where some of the girls were called the ones who put out and the other ones that did?
I,
Was it ever like that?
so my graduating class was, I think, like 600 people. So like there were kind of those ideas floating around, but it wasn't something I was very aware of.
Oh,
I was kind of in the oddball group. Like in high school,
I
I would literally walk down the halls reading a book. Like I didn't want to deal with people.
sure.
Um, so I probably was aware of that, but it wasn't something
Yeah.
that influenced me as much. Um, and most of my friends, like we would talk about this, but we were all kind of in the same boat and really hadn't had, sex. We'd been fooling around. Um, and then finally, the boyfriend I ended up dating from, I think it was like 16 to like 22 or something like that. Um, he was actually half Lithuanian and half German. Both of his parents were first generation. And um, they had a very, very different view about sex compared to sort of the white American Protestant kind of tradition. And I was really lucky that he was my first because sex was something to be celebrated. It was joyous. It was fun. It was funny sometimes. Like it was actually,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
I've talked to other people, and I was very grateful that that was the person I first had sex with
Mm.
because there was no, I mean, it was just like a little anxiety and things like that. And um, but I didn't feel, I don't know, less than. I didn't worry about my body. I didn't like it was
That's great.
just, yeah, it was a very good experience. He was not a good boyfriend. It was a very good experience.
Now, was there safety? Did you know then when you were dating him, did you know like, gee, I better do something about birth control or
Nope, nope,
oh,
nope,
oops.
no.
So full
And
unprotected, like just,
full, completely unprotected for
Oh
years.
my.
oh wow.
Um, and the irony is, don't get pregnant, but nobody gave me condoms or birth
Right,
control, or you know what I mean?
right.
So, um, unfortunately, it was left in his hands because it's not like I knew what to do. And I mean, my ignorance at the time was huge.
Yeah,
Ooh,
And
yeah.
there was no internet then. Like,
Yes. Oh God.
there's
Yeah.
no one you can ask. And it's not something we talked about very openly with other people.
yeah,
Definitely once I hit college, things changed. And then after college, I did go on birth control mainly for health reasons, but I'm also grateful for that.
yeah.
Um, but the other reality is that because of, I would say, other pressures, like I was put into situations that were physically unsafe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I did not have the it felt like almost the internal right to say no.
Mm.
And so
Hmm.
I was raped my junior year of
Oh,
college
oh,
by a friend.
oh dear.
And but we never talk about it. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
it's not something that rape is always stranger danger.
right,
And we
right,
don't talk about the fact that it could actually be someone who's close to you.
right.
Um, and I almost didn't feel like I had the right to say no, if that makes sense. Like I
Mm.
know I said no, but also like I didn't have the right to fight, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, and of course there's alcohol involved, and so therefore,
Yes.
Right. That somehow
brush kind of like,
automatically makes it, oh, well,
okay,
we're drinking, so that goes to the,
your fault.
yeah. So that kind of plays off of that safety bit of like,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. But I was raised in a very, it's kind of funny. I was raised in a very like, my dad was a biker. Like it's a kind of like, I don't want to say alternative, like, but outside society kind of household, but at the same time, insanely conservative.
Mm.
And so I was raised to be quiet. I was raised to do what I was told. I was raised completely not to have a voice. In fact, my father called my mother woman, and I was little woman.
Mm.
And my mother took care of my father's every single need.
Oh gosh.
I was raised to be a doll.
Right, right, exactly. I was
Yes.
thinking about that when you were saying that, Candy, and consent, and whether I think many young teenage girls don't feel they're worthy to say no, or to
Yes.
have a voice.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
really a self-esteem issue because it sounds like
Oh,
growing up in
yes.
a family sorry, I'm putting on my therapist
No,
hat.
please.
Please do.
Growing up in a family where you are raised to be like your mother, which is passive and kind of in service to the a patriarchal family, women don't,
Yes.
there's some, I mean, even today, there's certain clients that still feel like their job is to have sex with their husband and they can never say no. And
Hmm.
that's just crazy. And
Yeah.
and if you don't learn any of that and you have very little self-esteem or you want to fit in, you know,
Yes.
things happen. And I was just
Yeah.
thinking in some ways that was probably your case. Do I have that right or?
Yeah. And I would definitely say that like I was raised to be compliant in all ways.
Yes.
And I was also there's a little bit of fitting in, but also I think the need to be loved. Like
Yes.
I was so unlovable that I would do what was asked of me in order to
Feel loved.
be loved. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's this
Yeah.
other side too, which is, both you and I, Candy, have plus size bodies. And so there's this other piece that I heard a lot as I was growing up and just like in society and things like that, is it's sort of like, well, you should be glad somebody's taking an interest in you at all. And
Oh, that's
so it's that
cool.
idea of, we're raised in a society that tells us regularly that we're very unattractive, we're undesirable, we're gross, all these things, right? And so when there's somebody who's giving you attention, there's that moment of like, well, I mean, I guess like I should be just grateful that somebody is interested in me in some way. And so there gets to be some of that stuff within sex. And that again goes to that lack of the understanding your worth, understanding consent, understanding safety, understanding uh, yeah, your worth, period, right? Self-esteem and all of that. And so I think some
Yeah.
of that plays a role with some women in certain situations where they're like, well, I'm getting, and it maybe it's not even body related, but just self-esteem in general. Like I'm getting attention, and who am I to say no to it, right?
Right. This is the
Like,
best I get.
yeah. And so I think it gets really messy there for a lot of people. And the reality is like, I'd rather not. I'd rather be celibate for the rest of my life than settle in a situation that feels unhealthy or unsafe or is just because somebody is interested. Like, no, you get to actually want to be with the person you're going to have sex with as well. Like, it's not just I'm worth something because somebody wants to stick something in me, Like it's beyond that.
Yeah. And I also think especially kind of in that time period, because we're talking like the 90s here, like they're just women just didn't have rights in the same way.
Hmm.
And men.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have the I keep saying authority, agency, empowerment to say
Agency.
no. And especially like it's really kind of interesting and I almost said funny. And Jen, you don't know me, but like if you knew me today, you wouldn't even recognize the story of the person I'm telling you from that time period. Um, Most people today don't know me from then. And so as a completely different person, thank God for therapy. I'm a very strong, independent, vocal advocate. Like I am completely 180, but that was because I learned that the fact that I was a woman isn't the reason why I should be less than.
Yeah.
Thank
Right.
God for
Good. Hmm.
feminism. And honestly, it's women's studies classes in college that
Nice.
I'm gonna say honestly saved my life. Um, and got me out of a lot of situations, partly because of the women in the class, partly because of the teachers. So that learning that I have a voice and that I have the same authority and agency was really, really huge. And I think also learning I have the right to say no was a really big part of it. And I'm reading a book right now called Defy, The Power of No in a World of Yes.
Mhm.
And every page, I'm like, oh, yeah, oh, oh. Um, but she says at one point, she says, compliance does not mean consent. And
Mm.
I think what happened in my situation is I complied
Right.
out of some other fears. I
Hmm.
don't want, like, my life was not being physically threatened, but there was other stuff happening in my head. Um,
Yeah.
and there have been times where, like, for example, I was on crutches and I was in a Barnes and Noble and a gentleman came up to me. He was much older than me and he had an accent and he was talking and I kept trying to help him. And then I was listening, I was realizing he was saying very, very vile sexual things to me. And I kept standing there trying to help him.
Oh dear.
Mm.
Or the fact that I went on a date with somebody and they ghosted me and then they called me back, weeks later and they're like, hey, let's go on a date. And I was like, oh, okay. And then
Mm.
I talked to some friends. They're like, Candy, what the hell are you thinking? And so
Yeah.
I called him back and I left a voicemail saying, I'm sorry, but this is not going to happen. He called me back and swore at me in some horrific ways and basically like, how dare you cancel on me, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, I have the right to say no,
Yep.
but you don't out of fear of angering men. And that anger and that fear can cause you to do a lot of things because you don't want to upset men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a whole way that I was just thinking. I know you said you loved your mother and she was really great. And I'm still saying that our mothers are kind of our template for what's
Yes,
like to be a woman in relationship with
yes,
Yeah.
if they're heterosexual with a man.
yes,
And so you're talking, you got right into that. You did exactly what she was doing, and in this day and age, it's really not workable. And so
Right.
that's great. You've done so much work and kind
Yeah.
of,
yes. Learned a lot of hard lessons.
yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that how it is? A lot of hard lessons. But you're changing, you're changing the way it is.
Always growing and changing. But
Yeah.
then ironically, like there was somebody I dated a few years ago that I kept accepting less than.
Yeah.
And this one actually, I would say up until probably like my 20s or 30s, my weight wasn't significant. But this was because of weight and body image. And like it was kind of like he just dropped by kind of when he wanted to without making plans, or he wouldn't actually like take me out on a date. And it just kind of kept going on and on. And I asked for more and he ghosted me.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's taken me a while to get over that because I felt so rejected. And that one definitely was because of my body shape and size that no one else is going to ever physically want to have sex with me in the same manner that this man did.
mhm.
Yeah.
Now, was your mother a larger size? Was she?
But no, no, my mother
Oh,
was freaking gorgeous. My
uh,
mother's still
that's even
gorgeous.
harder. Yep.
I
Yeah.
just want to say for 1 second that we can be gorgeous even though we're larger. So she was
Uh,
thin. I
That's
just want
yes. But my
Good save there, Patty.
to.
that's fair, Patty, but my mother was gorgeous.
No, no, no.
Like
Yeah. I'm just saying. It's interesting. So when so I did have a few classes. I just wasn't always paying attention or whatever, like school for me, whatever. So in junior high, it was eighth grade. Our science teacher, this kind of older, balding man, he had to do some initial sex education. Can you imagine with eighth graders? Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
And so he had us like ask questions and like anonymous questions and hand them in and then he would answer them. And this one stuck out for me. And it was uh can't you not have sex when you're fat or something like that.
Oh,
And so that was one of the first messages I heard, and I've always, right,
Mhm.
had issues or weight challenges. And so that was the first thing I heard. And he said, well, and he wasn't an overweight man, but he was like, well, it can be hard sometimes, you have to find the right positions and it can be hard to get things to match up right. And so it kind of like in this
But as an
moment.
eighth grader, how are you going to even conceptualize what he's talking about?
Right. Yeah. Like, what do we put positions? We don't know anything really about sex at that point. And,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
this was the 90s, mid 90s. So there wasn't porn accessible to see what even
Yeah.
so we were all using our imaginations with this. But in my mind, I'm now absorbing I'm
Mhm.
fat, therefore it's going to be hard for me to have sex, and sex
oh,
isn't going to
sure.
be easy, right? And it's just
Mhm.
like all these lessons about sex that people don't like. It's so fascinating, and that everybody
Yeah.
internalizes things in different ways based on their experiences, right?
So I
Yeah.
have to tell you a positive thing which
Yeah.
happened. So I have always been wanting to educate people about that. And our two sons, my husband did take them aside and talk to them. But I belong to a UU church, Unitarian Universalist,
Mm.
and I was on the team for the ninth graders coming of age program.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that program was for, I don't know how long it was, a couple months, 3 months or something. And they would meet at night and we would talk about things like menstruation. We'd talk about, ejaculation. We'd have pictures. They're not like photographs, but they
Right,
were
right.
drawings of the men's genitalia, the females, sex positions. I mean, we went through the
That's
whole range.
amazing.
Yes, it was. And I tell you, that was the best thing that Unitarian Church was doing. I think I'm sure a lot of them still do that. I don't know any about that in the South, but I grew up in the Midwest, and when I did that coming of age program, was on the team that was teaching that. That was here in Massachusetts. So anyway, but to me,
Wow.
that's that is more preventative and safety and consensual teaching that
Yes.
in the curriculum. And
Yes.
people, the kids were giggling and they'd all sit together, the girls over here and the
Yeah.
boys over
Yeah.
there, and that kind of thing. But it was
Yeah.
really worth it and it was
Yeah.
healthy and it was affirming about it.
That was what I was missing because there were no conversations around
Yes.
it. There were no conversations about like your rights to bodily autonomy. I mean, even as a kid, like we finally now start talking about the fact that like you don't have to hug grandpa.
Right.
And
Yes.
I had a grandpa that would like do like twist and pinch on my arm.
Oh,
So you would go to hug him and he would physically hurt you.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
like there that it was so pervasive. And that's why like when you hear people telling their kids to go hug someone, I'm like, they don't have to hug me.
Yeah.
Like I'm
I'm
always the
like
one
that
being like,
too. Yeah.
no, you don't have to hug me.
Yeah.
Because it's your right to choose, but we didn't have that, and we still don't have that because there are still so many areas. And for me, it's hard because sometimes it's like I hear other women being angry or denigrating women who voted in a certain manner, and I'm like, unfortunately, I get it. I was raised in that household.
Yeah.
mhm.
You don't do what you want to do. You do what you were raised and told to do, and you are
Yep.
so isolated. I was so
Yeah.
isolated.
Yeah.
Um, I finally had a friend who basically was like, if you do not ask your parents if you can come over, I'm going to come over and ask them myself when I was in eighth grade.
Yeah.
Because that's what it took, because I had so much fear about like not stepping, like about stepping out of line.
Yeah.
And so that
Yep.
impacted every single decision I made up
Yep.
into, I would say, my late 20s.
Yep. Makes
Yeah.
total sense. I was just thinking, my mind flashed to, I can't go out too far out of my brain of not being a therapist, but so part of the internet though, when, was never around when my parents were parenting, wasn't around when I was really parenting, believe it or not. And cell phones just kind of were coming in when my kids were like in their mid, in teen years. But the whole idea of the internet with all the porn that's on there and all the objectification of women, which is continually through everything, movies,
Yeah.
TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
and and oh, you gotta have a thin body, or it's always got a statement,
Yep.
and so this whole idea of compensating people with different addictions
Mhm.
it is sex addiction. It's rampant.
Yeah.
It's everywhere now.
Yeah.
And it's another way of medicating what's going on. But people, I think some of them are coming out of these families you're talking about, Candy,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
don't know what to do, so they go
Yeah.
to the internet and they masturbate there, or they go to, finding someone, whatever. But there's
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of forms of sex now that have really gotten off the charts. I believe
I
wrong.
I think for women, and I'm going to say this again, I was very lucky. My first partner and most of my partners since have always been my pleasure centric.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so that's what I learned. Like that was the first lesson I learned is that my
Yeah.
pleasure comes first. And I think we have the challenge now with what people are learning online is that like it's a very different expectation. Men are walking in with a porn reference of what I look like, what I sound like, what I talk like, and what I
Yes,
move like,
Yeah,
what I do. And my expectations, I don't look like that. But also like I have needs. I have things I should put first. Also something I was never taught. I was
of
just, in a
course.
sense,
Yep.
gifted. Um,
yeah,
and now I know to ask for that. And if you can't give me that, you're
Out of
gone.
here.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
Good
I've
for
been lucky.
you.
That's always
right.
been kind of on the table, on expectation. But how many of us don't know how to have an orgasm? Like how many of us don't know how to advocate for
Yeah.
our own pleasure? You have a right to pleasure.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think that's hard to ask for sometimes. And especially like Patty's alluded to, like when you're in a bigger body, you almost in a sense, again, don't feel like you have the right to ask for what you want because you should be
Mhm.
grateful for what you're getting, which is complete and utter crap.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because so we talked a little bit about this on our episode,
Yes.
the idea of orgasming and that it was 18% of women can have an orgasm from penetration alone. And that
Yep.
that so many people aren't aware of that. But here's the other thing too is that that's something that we're not taught is that everybody likes different things and that
Yes.
it's okay to figure out what you like and
Yes.
how to communicate that. Like how
Yeah.
do we don't learn to talk about sex with our partners necessarily. We're not taught to do that and to be able to say, "Oh, actually I don't like that so much." Like some people like
Right.
direct clitoral stimulation, some people like surrounding, like
Hmm.
those little things are different for every single person
Yes.
and that it's
Yeah.
not just get in, get it done, get out, and everybody's happy. Like that's just not how it works, and that everybody has the same way, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
I think that that's something that a lot of people even now don't talk about and learn to talk about is like, here's what I like, and here's how I talk about what I like, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's good thing for sex therapists to deal with. That's
Yeah,
another resource. I was just thinking of our resource page,
yeah,
but there's that which I think is really important because it looks at that, because everyone is different.
yeah, yeah,
I also think we're entering a day and age where, and it's getting there, but like a lot of women I talk to who are single, including myself, if you have nothing of value to add, I don't want to be in relationship with you.
yeah, yeah.
And value to add would include orgasms. And if you can't figure that
Yeah,
out,
right. Yeah,
but also like I think that there's been over the years, like I even think about like my dating and sexual history, like has always been about being compliant, about giving, about making someone happy.
right.
And it's done a complete reversal. And now it's me centered, where I have authority and agency, and I'm an advocate for myself and still fighting sometimes to learn to do that. But also, my sexual pleasure and my participation is as important, if not more important.
Yeah.
I'm not saying more important than the person, but like it has to be
It's equal.
front and center because it's usually swept under the rug.
Right, right. Which is why that consent you were talking about the whole way it is sexy because
Yeah.
it means that they are actually taking into consideration where
Yes.
you are and what your wants are. And
Yeah.
that is sexy because that leads to the idea of like, oh, you might actually be paying attention when we have sex and when we get to that point that you are probably going to ask questions and find out and explore what it is that I enjoy as much as sharing what you
Yeah.
enjoy.
Mhm.
Well, and it's still hard to navigate though, because even with the last gentleman I was, in relationship with, whatever that was to him versus me, there was a day where he came over and it was one of those we kind of had plans, but he never confirmed. And so I was like on the couch with Bunny, like, um, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm on my way. And I'm like, what? And so I get up and I'm like, and he comes over and he'd obviously been drinking and we were intimate. And I realized I didn't want to be.
Mm.
because I didn't feel safe in this situation. But I also, because historically have just been compliant, like didn't say no.
Yeah.
And in that case, I wished I had said no. Um, because I did not enjoy myself because I was not present because he was also not present. He was drunk.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
like again, that whole you mentioned, like you can change your mind.
Hmm.
And just because you've done it once doesn't mean you have to do it again. But it's
Yeah.
still so hard for me to sometimes be like, I'm reaching the point I would rather just be alone
Yeah.
than put myself into that
I
situation
think a
again.
lot of women, Candy, are choosing that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel in general is I feel like I've put in so much work to find this peace. Like for me to give anybody a chance, you're competing with my peace, and that is
yes,
just not something I'm going to give up easily. You need to
yes,
I want to add to their life, and I want somebody who's going to add to mine. Anything
yes.
other than that, dude, I'm super happy with my life and
Yes.
myself. I
Well,
have cats, I have
I
whatever
know.
I enjoy,
I have
I have
people.
vibrators. I'm good to go. Like,
Do you know who
Ah,
can guarantee an orgasm 100% of the time?
right,
Myself.
you. You
myself.
can.
Yeah, right? And usually much
Yourself.
faster.
Me,
Yeah.
myself, and I.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. We have a great relationship.
So, well, I would
Yeah.
love to have a partner in life. I am not willing to, for lack of a better word, settle at this point. I have too much living in my life that I want to do. And while I wish I was having more sex at this point in time, it's, as you said, it's not worth giving up that peace of mind and the beautiful life I have
Yeah.
for a man to walk in with his expectations and chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
This has been so great.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
love it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing so much, Candy, and so personally, especially on this topic.
Well, I thought about that as well this week, and because this is a challenging conversation to have,
Yeah.
but for me, every time I talk very openly about my mental health and I talk very openly about the challenges I have faced, and there have been many, um, every time somewhere down the road, someone comes back to me and says, you talked about this and I could see what you did and how it helped you and all the things you did to get through it. And it gave me hope.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so I think too, like, while I had a lot of struggles, and I do still to this day struggle some with body image and, self-worth, it's not nearly the same as that girl who had no tools, no resources,
Mhm.
no support, no knowledge, no rights to their own bodily autonomy. Like I I want women to know you have the right to own yourself, body and soul.
Yeah.
And nobody has the right to trample that.
Yeah, I think that's such a positive message to kind of
Mhm.
wrap all this up on is that reminder that it's never too late to find your consent and your voice and what makes you happy and to learn how to communicate what makes you happy. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure. And Patty, where do you put the resources, the page that we have connected to this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
So I have
Awesome.
resources on the website on our resources page, and at the bottom and in the show notes, you'll find a link to the resources page on the website. So we add in some information for anybody that wants additional resources.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great. Awesome.
Love it.
Oh,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Well,
And thank
thank
you
you.
for having this podcast and giving the opportunity for people to talk about their experience and also for us to learn. I've learned so much from the last episodes you had. So thank
Oh,
you.
great. Good.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for coming, and it's great meeting you. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you like what you've heard, please share it with friends, subscribe, and leave a review.
And remember, information shared on this podcast is not medical advice. If you have a concern about your physical or mental health, please seek support from a professional.
If you have a story you'd like to share about things your mother forgot to mention, you can apply to be a guest.
We'd also love to hear a quick 90-second thing you've learned in your life.
You can find links to both of those over at our website at
thingsmymotherforgottomention.com or in the show notes.
Thank you.